I'm Richard from DPReview, and in this video we're in Fremont, Seattle, to meet custom bike maker Max Kullaway from 333 Fab. Over 2 days, we'll document the construction process from bare metal to a complete rideable bicycle using the Fujifilm X-E3, a small, capable 24-megapixel mirrorless camera with a range of photo and video features that we'll use to capture the process, start to finish. Today, Max is building a bike called the AirLandSea.
It's a dirt road rambler, it's the mountain rando bike, so it's basically a randoneering bike designed to go out there and get lost on.
I've always thought there are interesting parallels between cameras and bikes. They're both marvels of engineering that their owners form really personal attachments to. Perhaps watching how a handmade bike gets built will help me understand why. In this instance, both the bike and the camera represent a blend of the traditional and the cutting edge. While the X-E3 has a classic look and some very vintage-looking controls, it's fully capable of shooting at 8 frames per second and is able to capture 4K video footage. The bike fabrication process begins with a drawing that specifies the various gauges of tubing to be used for different parts of the bike, all selected to match the size and weight of the rider. These tubes are cut and finished. They're then assembled on a jig adjusted to match the intended dimensions.
Once everything is fitting together, the tubes all get tacked together in a frame jig, which is fully adjustable and set up for each frame. It's a steel frame, which sounds pretty traditional, but it's got some non-traditional things going on.
Every one of these joins has to line up perfectly, a job made more difficult by the complex shape of the distinctly modern tapered head tube.
Voila.
With the X-E3, the traditional and the contemporary sit much more comfortably together. In this case, a touchscreen is used to replace the 4-way controller, with directional swipes being used to access your choice of the camera's key functions. Back with the bike, the main tubes are then welded together using a process called TIG welding, where the area around the metal is flooded with argon gas to create an inert environment for the weld to take place in. As well as being able to use the touchscreen, the X-E3 also has a joystick for setting the AF point. When I'm taking photographs of Max welding, I don't really want to be looking straight at a welding torch, so I've been looking through the viewfinder, and in keeping with the camera's rangefinder style design, the viewfinder is placed to the top left, just as it would have been on a 1960s rangefinder camera.
Getting close to the end of the fabrication process, now it's just like the little bits that are going on that help it be a functioning bicycle.
The next step of the fabrication process is called brazing, which uses brass or silver to attach the less strength-dependent features.
The areas where there's paste, so that's flux, and that just helps keep the area clean under heat.
For this, I used the camera's dynamic range modes, which let me capture more highlight information. This way my photos retain some of the colour of the flame. Like the rest of the X series, the X-E3 offers the company's film simulation modes. These are exactly what they sound like. They're attempts by the camera to mimic the colours, the saturation, and generally the look of old Fujifilm film stocks. And some of them are really quite attractive. I've mainly been shooting in ASTIA, but there's also a really detailed black and white mode called ACROS. Or, if you like your colours super punchy, there's the VELVIA mode. The viewfinder also allows me to hold the camera in a much more stable manner than I can when I'm holding it at arm's length, and effectively use my face as a third stabilisation point. After a quick bath and some final machining, that's the end of the first part of the process.
It goes off to paint, comes back, a little prep, and then all the parts go on it. Then it's really a bike, not just a frame.
Before heading off to the painter, I used the camera's Wi-Fi, made easier by its constant Bluetooth connection, to send some pictures to my phone, so I could share them with Max, and with my friends. We've brought the completed frame down to Georgetown to be painted by Adam at Now You're Finished.
The AirLandSea project is something that Max Kullaway from 333 came up with. Air, the blue color, land, which is the gray, and the green sea color of the Puget Sound.
As Adam paints, I've got two cameras in the paint booth with me. One for a mixture of stills and some 4K video at 24 frames per second, and the second set up on a tripod, shooting every 3 seconds to give a time-lapse sequence. With the painting complete, Adam will add several clear coats to give the finish a greater sheen and depth. Before we left, he showed us some of the custom decals that will be applied under that clear coat. After the decals and clear coat are applied, the frame heads back to the shop for final build-up. In the workshop, mechanic Mark adds all the crucial components, with appropriate wheels, brakes and drivetrain being added. As has been the case throughout this experience, the X-E3's combination of impressive low light performance and wide aperture lenses means it's done well with all this indoor shooting.
I've got most of the parts on it already. All that's left to do is add the tape and the bike's ready to ride.
As something of a bike geek, I've really enjoyed watching basically bare tubes of metal be turned into a fully functioning, and I have to say rather pretty bicycle. But now comes the really fun bit, getting a chance to actually try riding it. The compact nature of the X-E3 means I'm able to fit the camera and a couple of lenses into the bike's bar bag. Watching the work that goes into making a bike and listening to Max talk passionately about it has given me an insight into why people feel such an emotional connection to a collection of welded tubes. But it's when I ride the bike that it really clicks for me. People end up loving their bike or their camera because they're both beautifully engineered machines that let you express yourself. Perhaps that's why so many photographers I know are also cyclists, and vice versa.
It's nice to be able to make them, and sometimes I'm fortunate that I get to see other people ride my bikes around, and that makes me feel really good.
Fine bicycle, one that really fits. If it looks beautiful and it puts a smile on the owner's face, makes them want to throw their leg over it, then it's ideal.
I have to agree with Adam, and I wanted to capture this ideal moment of me with the bike, so I asked our producer, Zach, to take my photo.
Yeah, would you set it up for me?
Absolutely, I'm just going to put it in auto mode.
Perfect.
That's all I need to do.
We're going to take a couple.
With this done, I wanted to get a shot of the bike standing against the Seattle backdrop, somewhere that includes the quintessential Pacific Northwest elements of air, land and sea. Now there are two techniques to taking a picture of a bike standing up. One is to use a stick to just prop it up, and the other is to have someone hold the bike, step out of shot, and then quickly dive back in before it hits the ground. We're going to try the latter. Okay, you ready, Zach?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Perfect. So here we are, with a complete bike, ready to go off to its new owner. Sadly, that's not me, but I know whoever it ends up with will appreciate the care, attention, and even love that Max, Adam, and Mark have put into it. I've just enjoyed being along for the ride. For DPReview, I'm Richard Butler.